So we say this a lot, pipeline cures all ills. I promise you wouldn't pursue people if your pipeline was bursting with opportunity because you wouldn't have time.
Welcome to Sales Assassins, the podcast that unveils the lost art of word-of-mouth marketing for professionals just like you. We cover everything from building relationships and nurturing connections to overcoming the challenges of modern marketing. You'll learn how to stand out in a crowded market, charge confidently for your services, and create an army of people recommending you without hesitation. Now, let's dive in and make you deadly effective at sales. Welcome back to the show, all you assassins and would-be assassins out there. Joe, how are you, sir?
I'm wonderful. It's 79 and rainy down here, but I'll take it over winter coats and blankets. So
there you go. I'll take my nice chilly Colorado weather.
There's a part of me that misses it every now and again, but not much.
I want to dig into this idea. Again, it's counter to what we're hearing all the time, right? This idea of following up. And there's a point that it's absolutely you should do. It's one of the basics for sure. In sales, in growing a business, this idea of, you don't just throw out one connection, one conversation, throw out an estimate, and then never talk to the person again. The data around it. We as distracted humans need that follow-up. The key that you and I were just talking about is where's the cliff, right? Where do you push that off and just go, okay, enough is enough. And I think it's critical that people hear it because we get inundated with both, and we should follow up more than probably most of us do.
True.
But then there's a point where, okay, that's enough.
It's a balance, to use a word, where you can't always be one and done, especially in marketing and sales. However, everybody who hears this and sees it, you're smart enough to know when someone doesn't want you. And sometimes, I don't know if it's totally scarcity, but a lot of times you'll keep in pursuit of someone because you don't believe there's someone else. And that's true of maybe relationships in all regards. And, I see it a lot in our assassins where people feel like, well, this is it. This is my pipeline, and this is so I've got to pursue this person and figure out a way to close them. And I have processes around that to figure out how serious someone is and if it's time to just let them go. I call it a boomerang, or you just throw them out. Sometimes they come back, but I'm not very good at throwing a boomerang, so they don't all come back to me. And I've got something that I practice pretty regularly, and it may seem crass. And it's more of a mindset than it is me trying to be punitive to someone who doesn't do business with me. I actually keep it right here on my desk. It's a legal bill. I like to be reminded of what I pay my attorney. It's a legal bill. And for those of you out there that, maybe need some censorship, don't listen to this part, but I just have this. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see it? It says F them next. And I don't know and I'm not sure how that's going to land, but it's a mentality of I have to move on. Because if I spend all my time pursuing someone that doesn't want what I have to offer, I'm taking the place of someone that does. So in sales or marketing, you have to get set, the old rule, 7 no's to get a yes, and close this and all. And I have found that you might be better off finding that person that just is like, I'm in, or I'd like to do this, or let's get started, versus the person that keeps kicking the can down the road. Now, the caveat to that is this. The world today is busier than it's ever been. It just is. And people are, it's called the law of diminishing intent. A lot of times when people meet with you or talk to you, they do intend on doing what you're talking about. But life gets in the way and their focus gets taken away, and what they intended on doing becomes less. So there is an element to keeping a lively cadence with someone. And we have all kinds of things we do around to keep the ball moving. But at some point, you're going to know that they're just going to not do this, and you need to move on. And what's weird about it is and I don't know if I have all the data, but most times when you move on, someone else takes that spot. Now, they may be in the same boat where they decide they don't want to move forward, but at least you're not pursuing something that doesn't want you, and you're in pursuit of someone that does. And that's a different mindset. I kind of, in my head, I say, I'm in the hunt. Especially in inner circle, I'm in the hunt for people that really want to come in there and do this. For example, I had a call this morning, and the person's like, I want to be able to give to be in this, and I'm honored to be asked. And his mentality was, I've got this in this next couple weeks. I've got to get through this. And I could have put the press on and done all the, there's no tomorrow and all. And sometimes I do. You got to know when to hold them, when to fold them. But in this case, it was like, all right, let's put a deadline in the sand. When I recruited, that was a big one. If you're going to leave your business and come to mine, we're going to put a deadline in the sand and work backwards. And he agreed to it, and to some accountability in the interim. So I had a agreed upon follow-up. And I'll often say, how would you like me to keep in touch between now and that date? So now it's not just random. Now, some people, they start the ghosting process on you. And we have a formula for that, and it works every time. And I stole it. I don't even know who I stole it from, especially in the texting world. And I could probably spend an hour telling you horror stories of the responses I get to this. But if someone starts ghosting you, it's 48 hours, just text them, are you okay? So if you get an are you okay, if you're going to come into Assassins, you get an are you okay from one of us. We're seeing first, we're not assuming that you're ghosting. Because I'll get back, I'm at my mom's funeral. I had a massive heart attack. My wife left me after 29 years. These are the ones I've gotten in the last 2 weeks, by the way. You'll get, so if you, I think it's called assume positive intent. If you assume that there's something going on, you're going to get a better result than if you try to pester them to response. It's just first, I want to figure out, are you okay? And then if there's nothing, then 2 days pass, we'll say, did you give up on this? Did that this morning. Did you give up on this? I got a paragraph back. And they haven't totally given up, but they were telling me what it was that was keeping them from moving forward when before they weren't.
Yeah.
So now in my follow-up, I have something to actually follow up on other than sequence nurture or blind pursuit, which I don't have any date. I don't have anything back on that. And if they say no to, or don't respond to, did you give up on this? You can throw a bomb out there and say, where do we go from here? That works sometimes. But for the most part, what I've found, especially in the service businesses or the professions that we talk about, you're dealing with people that, they've got a business, they've got life, and yeah, in the moment they wanted to do that, but stuff happens. I mean, all the time. So the best next thing is to figure out, is there something deeper going on I'm unaware of? And we post them in Assassins, like when we get a doozy, like, here's the are you okay response I got. And it's not, and what's also interesting about that is I don't know that they're telling other people what's going on with them. So it's a deeper level of connection. But the moral of the story is go through that sequence, and then they're going to tell you with their actions that they're just not interested. And sometimes you got to take them out of the pipeline and put them back in your connections and just start the rhythm over. You may have had someone that could be a great client that just isn't there yet. And we call it the law of small numbers. It's not terrible to be number 2 on everybody's list, because people leave, people die, people get divorced, people retire. And if I'm the next person up, especially if I'm younger, like we get some younger, they're liked, but maybe they've been doing it a little bit. It's okay to do that. I had a Ever Jones guy in Mattoon, Illinois named John Dye. And he was, in the early 2000s, he had like $500 million under management, Mattoon, which is unheard of. And I was talking to him about it in one of our meetings, and he said, Joe, just become number 2 on everybody's list. Start there. And so I'm not saying you should aspire to be number 2. That's not your ambition.
What is the goal of everything.
If you do this well and you have a pipeline and you're progressing through everything we're talking about, then it will come up. But if you just hone in on somebody and like, if this person doesn't do business with me, I'm going to do everything I can, then you're closing out the opportunity for other people to come into your world because you're so focused on them. And I said, like all relationships, everybody knows through or has been through someone that they wanted them to want them back and they just didn't. And they wasted a bunch of time trying to make that work. And even if they did come back, it didn't work long term.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's human nature to want, we all want what we ain't got. And there's a country song on that. It's kind of true. I always want something else. And what I'm saying is pursue the people that want you and find those people. Your energy's better served there than it is in trying to track someone down. And with today's technology, you can put them in I said nurture sequence. I'm not sure I know what that actually is. I've heard it. And I know we have a CRM. I'm not 100% sure I know what it is. But for, in pillars, sometimes I'll go through my texts and look at where I'm at with someone and start another conversation. And, we look at every couple weeks. And then if it's not there, maybe check back in a few months and put it in. Hey, just, don't say checking in, just start a conversation. That's called A-capping, by the way, where you start a conversation and then you can pivot into business if it leads there. So there's a skill set there. But I've noticed, and I'm, it's end of the year, so I'm looking at my whiteboard and everything and what we're going to launch into, next year and who's coming in. And so we're always trying to pull the pipeline through faster. It's just when you spend an enormous amount of time and energy worrying about whether someone's going to do it or not, you're setting yourself up to miss out on the people that would.
Yeah. You said in the beginning, it is a balance for sure, but there's an energy to being okay to move on and go to that next person. There's an energy that other person feels.
Sure.
And there's an energy that it's just better for you. You're going to bring in that next opportunity. And I understand it's tough. It's difficult. We talked about in the last episode, this idea of anchor core skills to have. This is one of them, to be able to be across from somebody. And no matter if you have moths coming out of your wallet, empty bank account, like that, they will never in a million years feel it, guess it. Like that is a skill to have. And it's critical. And I get it. It's hard, but
right.
This is a skill you can do. You can develop for sure. And you just have to. And the parallels, again, to relationship are great. I think part of this is like, it's that same dynamic. If, you can be good with just being alone,
Yeah. Well, think of how needy your kids are and how annoyed you are at them. Just everybody soak that in. Are you like, no, up to you. But you know what I mean? It's so you don't want to project neediness. You can't be aloof. I'm not saying that, but there's lots of stuff out there on detachment. The more detached I am from the outcome, and we even talk about in Assassins, you're not really after the yes or no, you're after the decision. Because the indecision is what sucks everybody's time and energy. So if it's a no, that's as good as a yes. You can do the math on, it's called your magic number. How many no's do I hear before I hear a yes? And then psychologically, all right, I'm going to get through 10 of these today because on that 11th one, I'm getting a yes. And that's statistically knowing your numbers. That's a key, metric to pay a lot of attention to. How many times do I get told no before someone says yes? So there's all these things you can do to take that pressure and that scarcity off of you by just knowing your metrics. We have a whole thing on know your numbers. People lie, numbers don't. People lie to themselves about their numbers, usually about how good they are, and they're really not. So if you're honest with yourself about where you are and you know them, then you have the ability to, it's like, okay, I need to do this, this, and this. I need to go to my 5 coffees, my 3 lunches, and my 1 evening out, my 5-3-1. And when I do that week over week and I backfill it on my calendar, my odds go up that I'm going to get that person to say yes or become a better pillar. So it's like, you're right. It's like a magnetism or law of attraction or whatever they call that, where if I'm in pursuit of something that doesn't want me, it's repelling the people that do. And probably the person that, like, you demagnetize yourself, I guess is the way I would say that.
Yeah. What are those things that we can do to stay in touch? If like, okay, just energetically, okay, this person, whether it's
sure,
not now or never, or whatever it is, but I want to stay, I want to be that number two to them, maybe down the road if they make another decision. What are those things to where we can sort of, it is that nurturing, again, back in the whole pillars word of mouth world, we want to stay in their world and have that connection point. What are some of those things we can do?
Well, let me back way up. So we say this a lot. Pipeline cures all ills. I promise you wouldn't pursue people if your pipeline is bursting with opportunity, because you wouldn't have time. So start there, like pipeline. That will cure all your business ills. I don't care what problems you have. You have a robust pipeline. Those will seem insignificant to the opportunity. So you start there. But one way to stay in touch with someone without saying, "Hey, I'm checking in on you." Do you like to be checked in on? Do you like it when someone checks in on you? No one does. So we have and maybe we do a whole thing around this. We have something called the catch-all. So you should be doing every 45 to 60 days a catch-all event. And a good way to stay in touch with someone, because it's a bigger event, it's not as intimate, and it's fun. And so there's some rules to catch-alls, and they go as follows. Can't cost you a lot of time and energy. Can't be hard for me to get to if I'm the client. Like if I have to go through, a seance and a maze, I'm not coming. And it should be easy to exit. I call it, as a good Irish boy that I am, an Irish exit. I don't want to have to say goodbye to 100 people and feel guilty for leaving. I want to be able to come in easy, leave easy, enjoy myself, say hi. That's a catch-all. And from our perspective as the provider, it's a sign of appreciation or education. It's valuable in some form and it's enjoyable. That's a catch-all.
So give me an example there. Is that something you're inviting existing clients, prospects, all that too? What is an example?
So we have a client that's doing Santa at their office. They got 1,000 fines. Here, Santa's going to be here. We're going to line you up. You get a picture of Santa and some hot cocoa, and we're saying thank you to everybody. That's a catch-all. We have a speaker coming in. It'll hold 60 people in this room. Doesn't cost you anything. You can come and sit for 15 minutes, listen to that, get a cocktail or whatever. I mean, we have a client that does this one's a little more intricate, but it's worth it. They do 100 people to a baseball game on a patio. So, or you could, if your budget's limited, I mean, you can rent out a space and have a reception. There's all kinds of entertainment spaces that cost nothing. And by the way, in some of your industries, so like especially insurance, realty, investments, vendors will pay for it. You can use someone else's money. You can leverage OPM, other people's money. You want OPP, other people's pillars. Those are what influencers get to you. But in this case, you can use other people's money. So you can coordinate with them, and it's a way, there's a lot you can do with it, and this may go into a second episode. You can also do this. If I've got a regularly scheduled catch-all, I can play to it. So if I ask you to meet with me and it doesn't work or time doesn't work, you're just not quite there. Oh, by the way, hey, we're having this event. We'd love for you to come. Bring your spouse, bring your kids. And here's the secret to the catch-all. Whether they show up or not is irrelevant. It's that you tried to do something for them and you're doing these things regularly. Again, people pay you for how they feel. Pillars is one of those things where you get into private client engagements and private client events. Those are a little more intimate for your top people, but you also have other clients that you can't just say, well, you're not a pillar. I don't piss on you. I want to do, so it's a mechanism of appreciation and enjoyment that doesn't have as much depth and can be done for everyone. Thus, catch-all. So I can invite community. I can invite, and that's pretty common in financial services. They would do seminars. I personally did them, and I would not want to sit through a seminar and really don't want to orchestrate one. I want more of a casual event where it's fun. We had a client do, and this is a little more intricate. They brought Tesla in, and they had 3 Teslas and a taco truck, and you got to go drive a Tesla. And when it was your turn, and you got to eat tacos in a parking lot. And someone else paid for it. That's a catch-all. A private client event is 10 and under, by the way, or maybe if you stretch it, you can go forward. That's where it's like you and a couple other couples, maybe, where it's an intimate discussion. You're getting to know them. It's a deeper relationship. That's in the 531. That's the one. One night a week, you should have a PCE on the books. Maybe it's you and your spouse go out with people, or in my case, when I had a bunch of little kids, and so did my business partner John, we would refer to each other as hetero life mates because we did those together with our clients that were couples, and they'd bring other couples, and it was funny, and people loved it, and so when you're think, and I know we've gone probably off the rails on pursuit, but the catch-all, it's easy to not do them. So that's why I say it has to be easy to plan and not a lot of expense. And the gesture is everyone's invited, and I'm not super concerned over, is everybody coming? Because tell me if this is true or if you've ever done this, because I'm guilty of this and I've probably told this story. So if I start repeating myself, somebody of the 5 people that watch this, somebody say something. So if I don't get invited, I feel left out. But if I get invited, I might be annoyed and not come anyway. Have you ever been in that situation? I'm not going to that. But if I didn't get invited, then I feel like something was taken away from me. So think of your clients at large. Just include them in what you're doing and your prospects. So to get back to your original question, if I've kind of gone to the number 2 list, well, here's what's happening. If they like you and have come to an event, but they have someone already, which is the number 1, when they leave, it's either through one of those D's that I talk about, death, divorce, and you can throw the R in there, retirement or whatever. But if they leave by choice, it's because the enjoyment of doing what you provide outweighs the pain of leaving someone they like. Like all relationships, they may be happy, but they found someone they like better. Well, the way to get them to know you and like you better is to provide an experience they can be a part of. Like we had, and I don't know if we're going too long, but when we were doing this in St. Louis, one of our families that we did this with, that we were growing through their friends and family, had a sister with a very successful husband, and he was essentially married to his advisor. And after about the 3rd or 4th thing he attended, and he's kind of an old school St. Louis attorney. He said, "Joe, I don't feel good coming to these because I'm not going to move my money. I'm just not." And his name's Ron, so if he happens to see this, I said, "Ron, Irma being here is more important than any dollar you have, because the sisters loved her and they wanted her there. And Mom, who was 96, would have shit if we had one of their events and Irma and Ron weren't there." So now
that's great.
So there's a value to that, just including them. And there's a happy ending to that story. I'll save it for another time. But that's how you have to view it, as like, and those were a little bigger, not, we grew it. But what you're thinking about is, I just want people to know that we care about them. And for my prospects, I want them to see it. So, I was talking about the guy who does all the razors and hunting and all that. He's got people that have probably been on 3-4 razor rides that have millions of dollars. They'll become clients. And actually, one of them who's not a client because Mama doesn't want to move is referring other people. So the pain. So people are weighing pain. I don't want to upset this person, especially my spouse. I like you better. So in the meantime, I'm going to compensate you by sending the people I know, like, and trust until the pain. Now I'm weighing pain.
Yeah.
When this pain of not being part of it outweighs this, then I'll make a move. So that's, to bring it all back together. The way to keep someone engaged is put a sequence in of periodically talking to them and include them. And you kind of said it. It's like, whether you become a client or not, this is what I do, and I want you to be a part of it.
Yeah. And it's back to a reason to engage, a genuine reason, a worthwhile one, something that's not going to make them hit the block button because you're like, just checking in again.
No one wants to check in.
Yeah. And you're actually giving them, this invite to something. And I think every example you gave is the ideal. But if your business is one that, it needs to be a virtual version, you can do that. All the principles apply. I think they're a little less effective as that in person, but all the principles apply, and you can absolutely do something like that.
There's no shortage on LinkedIn and Facebook of things you could do. Like this, if you want to be a part of something or create something, school communities, go onto the school main page and look at how many free communities there are. They're free. Now they want to upsell you. Let's not bullshit each other. They want a sale, but they have 1,000 people in there because they're creating something to be a part. That lion sitting behind me, I talk about the environment. I created an environment that people for now like, and we'll see. Some of them even love it. But that's something to be a part of because it's an experience that's different than what they would get anywhere else. And you can do that I'm probably going too much, but you can do that in your business because people all want to be a part of something special and that's meaningful and feels great.
I mean, like kind of add that, no matter what you're doing, add that component to your business.
I would, if you're leaving it out, you're leaving it on the table. And again, not a lot of time and energy and money, easy to come to, Irish exit. That's a simple catch-all, and you can make them fun, and your team can enjoy it too. I highly recommend a rhythm of at least quarterly. That's probably, depending on how mature the business is, that's at least.
All right. I think people got it. I think they're going to take it in. Every person who hears this is going to take action. They're going to do it. I know it.
I have no doubts.
All right. We'll see you all next time.
All right.
In a sea of endless digital noise, your ability to connect and generate authentic word of mouth is your deadliest weapon. Whether you're just starting out or you're looking to break through to the next level, the principles we discuss here are your blueprint for success. It's all about being the most trusted and valued in your network. To maximize what you've learned today, visit joinsalesassassins.com to see how you can become a true sales assassin in your industry. Until next time, keep sharpening your skills, expanding your network, and remember, in the world of sales, the true assassins strike silently but effectively by doing what nobody sees coming, building genuine connections and powerful relationships. Stay deadly, stay authentic, and we'll see you on the next episode of Sales Assassins.
This show is powered by Media Leads. To get your next great podcast produced, go to MediaLeadsCo.com.